Hey, good afternoon, good evening. This is Anthony with Break to Recovery. Got a little lesson for you here today. I want to talk about what it takes to do something and persevering through that. I'll tell you a story first. Many years ago, maybe about 10, 15 years ago, I can't remember, there was a restaurant in Tyler. They would have some comedy shows, and so I knew a couple of the people that were hosting it, and I kind of fancied myself in the past, being able to make people laugh. But I kind of wondered, wow, well, what would it be like to be a comedian? So one of my buddies gave me a shot. Said, you know what? Okay, I'll give you a shot to be one of the openers. You'll have, it was like a minute, I think, minute or two at the most. Okay, I think it probably about a minute. But so I try to come up with this little routine. I wrote it down, and I would go through it in my mind over and over again, and I thought it was going to be funny. And we get to the show. I had invited some people, off my friends, friends I went to school with, friends I've dated, different people that I know and grew up with. Well, they showed up, and I remember I was one of the first, and I performed, and there was some people right in front of the stage that were there too. They were specifically there to see the main person, which everybody was, obviously, but they just kind of had this blank look up at me. And I remember I was trying to be funny, and then I looked down at them, and it broke me. But that was my first time to ever do it. But here's the thing: is after that, I totally lost, because I hadn't been training. I'm not experienced. I don't know what I'm doing. So it totally cut me off. So I stopped right there, got off stage. I thought years later about that, and I realized the thing is if I had wanted to be a comedian, to continue, I could have, but not because I'm some kind of funny guy, but the thing is what it would have taken? It would have taken hard work. Yes, being a comedian is hard work. I mean, they have to go through, countless jokes and writing and constantly thinking about stuff and rehearsing and bombing like I did my first night, which was to be expected. They have to go through crap. They got to get heckled. I've watched a lot of really funny guys get heckled, and it's really crazy that they do. And so, anyways, what am I talking about is I had no right to get up there on stage and think that I was just going to be some funny guy and I was just going to kill it my first couple of minutes. I had this imagination, our imaginations play with us, but I had this thought like, oh man, I'm going to get up there and I'm going to make everybody laugh, and everybody's going to be like, all right, yeah, man, you should do, comedy, man. You should be a comedian, Anthony. And I had no right to think that when I'm not putting in the work. If all it took was one time to break me and to say, you know what? Yeah, I got other things I can do. That obviously, Now, there are things I want to do. You know, being a comedian is not my choice, but it would have been cool. But I know a couple of comedians, and they've told me that, yeah, I know a couple of comedians that have been on big stages, been on TV shows, and been in movies, a couple of movies, and still for them it's hard. It's hard. They don't just get up there and just assume that this is going to be a cakewalk. No, they rehearse, they study, they all this crap that I don't know anything about. So anything you do, we have to know that it's going to take work. In life, it's going to take work. It's going to take hard work, repetition over and over and over again. And it's going to take a lot of failures, a lot of stumbling in the process. And we have no right to assume otherwise. We have no right to assume we're just going to be a natural and we're just going to kill it right off the bat. That's just egotistical. How arrogant is that? Just like, and I've talked about this before, but just like, some people that are just phenomenal on camera, guys that are just really good at delivering a message on camera, on YouTube, on Facebook, and they got a really powerful message. And they absolutely sucked at first. But just think if, some people that are really powerful on camera, that are really inspirational, really motivational, really show you what's possible, if they would have said, "Oh man, I suck, I can't do this," man, there would have been a lot less people that would have tried to reach for the stars, because they wouldn't have seen them. They wouldn't have been influenced to do something great, or whatever they wanted to achieve. All right, that's enough of that. Y'all have a great day. Thanks for watching.